Right, good day junior tuckies, and welcome to this video in a series that's going to be dealing with the heart, blood vessels, and then also some of the skeleton. We're going to start with the heart and circulation, so let's dive right in. First thing for us to identify is the right and the left side of the heart. Now, some of you may have already realized this, that when I'm looking at the heart on a two-dimensional piece of paper, my right and the left side seem to be swapped around. This is because when we are talking about the heart itself has a right-hand side and a left-hand side, and it's not only me looking at the picture. Okay, so we see that there is a right and a left side, and we can see that the right side of the heart is actually on my left-hand side, and the left side of the heart is actually on my right-hand side. And the left and the right are separated by a septum, and you can see we're coloring the septum in here purple, and this is a very important structure in separating the right and the left side of the heart. Why? Because the right side of the heart is responsible for pumping the deoxygenated blood out into the pulmonary circulation. The left side of the heart is responsible for pumping out the oxygenated blood into the systemic circulation. It's important for these two bloods not to mix, because the deoxygenated blood needs to be enriched with oxygen as it reaches the lungs, and then the oxygen-rich blood needs to take that oxygen to the body cells. And if the oxygenated and the deoxygenated blood were to mix, the system would not be as efficient as it needs to be. So the first thing, looking at the pulmonary circulation, deoxygenated blood, which is oxygen-poor blood, needs to be pumped to the lungs for a very, very important process to take place. And this is the process of gaseous exchange, where oxygen is brought into the body, into the blood, and carbon dioxide is expelled through the lungs. This oxygen-rich blood then will return to the body, or to the heart, and then eventually to the body through the systemic circulation. And we can see the major blood flow through these vessels over here in red. Blood is received into the left atrium, moves into the left ventricle, and then is pumped out through the aorta to the upper body and the lower body. A very common question when looking at blood flow through the heart is for us to draw a flow map of the route that blood takes when it enters the vena cava until it leaves the aorta. Now, how would we answer a question like this? First thing to do is to understand the blood flow through the heart. So we're looking at a heart now, and let's identify the structures from start to finish as the blood makes its way through the heart. So blood is received into the right atrium. You can see that by the two blue arrows that I've just drawn over there. The blood will then proceed through one of the valves into the right ventricle, and then it is going to exit the heart from the right ventricle through a semilunar valve into the pulmonary arteries. And it's those pulmonary arteries that are going to be taking this blood to the right and the left lung. We can see that the main artery leaving the heart into the systemic circulation is the aorta, and we can see that the chambers over here are the right atria and the left atria, and they're separated by a valve. There's another valve that I identified, the semilunar valve, and these are important structures for me to identify when I am drawing my flow map. The main pulmonary artery as well, and then obviously the lungs. Now, blood returning back to the heart from the right and the left lung does so through the pulmonary veins into the left atria. There's a valve that separates the left atria from the left ventricle, and then as blood leaves the heart, it's going to leave through another semilunar valve to the aorta. We can see that here we have the main pulmonary veins entering that atria from the lungs, and identifying these structures over here also become important in my flow map. Let's see how we're going to start our flow map. We start with our right atria. Blood will then move through my tricuspid valve into the right ventricle. We have the semilunar valve, then carrying blood to the pulmonary arteries and eventually arriving at the lungs. From the lungs, we have the pulmonary veins carrying the blood into the left atria. The blood moves then through a bicuspid or a mitral valve to the left ventricle, through another semilunar valve, and the blood will then exit through the aorta to pump that blood into the systemic circulation. And that's how we're going to answer this question. Thanks very much for joining for this video. Please be sure to check in with Junior Tuckies online for more fantastic resources in helping you become the best life sciences student in grade 10 that you can be. Until next time, goodbye.